everyone. Welcome to Mission to Inspire. My name is Shola, as you know, and we're joined today by Randy Adkins. Hi, Andy. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. It's great to be on your show.
Thank you so much for coming on our show today. Randy is all the way from South Carolina. Am I correct?
Yes,
Right.
yes, all the way
Yeah.
from South Carolina.
Well, I'll just do a little bit of introduction and then I'll leave it to you to introduce yourself properly because we really want to know you and meet you. So, Randy is an author, is a speaker, is a teacher, is dedicated to helping individuals uncover and live their true purpose. Now, I'm just going to leave it at that, but he's got so much going on, and I'll leave it to him. Randy.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be on your show. I am a as you've stated, I'm an author, teacher, speaker, preacher. Also love being able to share a message of hope and joy and peace and inspiration. And so I hopefully it will align and everyone understand. I am here in the States, Charleston, South Carolina. Was born and raised here, have traveled the world, married to my wife for 26 years, have three children, and just enjoy the idea of being able to share how we can live this life in a way that every day that you wake up, it doesn't have to be something that you come into and you say, oh man, I don't want to wake up this morning. I don't want to move forward. But that regardless of what's happening external to you, that you can wake up, you can have joy, you can have peace, you can have hope, and a pathway to do that. So through writing my book, as well as my podcast or preaching or whatever I'm doing, I want to share that message with everyone and have that be something that can be a foundation of how you can live in that joy, be that light when you come into a room. And I love being able to share that, helping transform lives and helping anyone in that process to be that change agent that they can be in all that they do. And so that's a little bit about me and a little bit about what I do. Hopefully, as we move forward in the conversation, it'll be uh, information that everyone can take in and be able to utilize.
Sure. Thank you so much for introducing yourself and allowing us to know you more, better than we do. Let's actually talk about your book, Produce on Purpose. Let's talk about that book. So, focusing on living life authentically. Yeah. What inspired you to write this book?
The inspiration for this book is that everyone has an opportunity to live this life to the fullest, to have that great joy, have that great peace, and to provide you a pathway of doing that. I start the book off by asking a question to everyone, and the question is, are you ready to be a producer? And you say, what? What does that mean? Well, what I have found, if you look at the front cover of the book, I've put a mask on the book, and the book and it has a crack and it has a like a seedling coming out of that mask. What I've found is that many of us have become great actors and actresses in this world. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, that means we have learned how to show up in different situations, maybe
Yeah.
not authentically being who we are. And in that case, that means you begin to act. In the Greek days, what they would do for acting is they would put these masks on to let you know that they were in character. And sometimes we become people who are in character depending on where I'm at. So I might be in the corporate world, I'm going to have a different character or mask on. I might be at home, I'm gonna have a different character and mask. I may be with my family, I'm a different character and mask, or I may be out in an organization or at the shopping, doing shopping, whatever it might be. You may be putting on masks, and sometimes these masks show up as emotional masks. Maybe I'm hiding my emotions because in this situation, I don't want to show all of the different emotions that I need to show. Or maybe the mask is showing up because I'm trying to impress those that are around me, because many times we've heard this, is that the first impression is so important when we do things. And so you are wearing these masks, but that's not truly who you were born to be. And so my encouragement to everyone through this book is that you can produce in this life based on your purpose, what you were born to do. And so then I say, if we are all good actors and actresses, sometimes we look at the movies and we see the actors and actresses on the big billboards, and that's what we're showing to the world. And
Yeah.
we're like, wow, this is really nice. But if I were to meet that actor or actress in real life and ask them a question, that's not who they are. They're not that character that you see on the screen. And how do we get to that being authentically who we really are? And
Mm.
what's that path look like? You say, well, maybe I'll be the director of this thing called my movie, your movie. You have a movie called Your Life. And that movie that you're in, it's maybe you're not the actor, actress, maybe you're the director. And directors have greater freedom and they can, pan into the shots. They can tell the actors and actresses what to do as they are doing it. But what I have found is even though actors and actresses are working on someone else's script, so is the director. They are working based on what the producers have in mind. The producers are the ones that bring together the resources. They bring together and hire the director, the actors and actresses, and get everyone in place to bring out a vision of what's going on. Wouldn't it be best that you be the producer of your life?
Mm.
If you are the producer of your life, then you're going to bring about all of the support that you need to bring about the vision that you were born to do. So when we're based on our purpose, we'll produce great things of our purpose. And I'll share this, and we'll use that as a foundation. Is that purpose I explain in two forms, very easy. That you have a general purpose, and you also have a specific purpose. Your general purpose is to please your creator. Some call their creator universe, nature. I call my creator God. And in the Bible, it says that God is love. Then that means every expression that I have, I'm going to express love in what I do to please my creator. That's my general purpose. That's across the board for everyone. If you generally are going to fulfill that purpose, you're going to do that for your creator. The
Mm.
second is where it becomes really unique, and it's only you that has what you have, and that your specific purpose is your gifting. Everyone has a gift, at least one. And in that gifting, you have the ability to do something that everyone looks at you and they say, wow, you do that so easy. No one, that's that easy thing that you do. That's your gifting. Sometimes it's being able to identify things that someone needs, or maybe you're just good at math, or maybe you're good at finances. Whatever you're good at, you are strong in those areas. That's your specific part of your specific purpose. And that gifting, when you're fulfilling it, you will have greater joy, you will have greater peace because you're doing it regardless of what's happening external to you. And so it's important for us to understand what our purpose is so then we can then begin to produce the things that really impact others. And so that's the impetus behind the book, that we become producers, that we become producers of our life. And part of becoming those producers is to start to remove those masks in all these different situations that we come into.
Ah, wow. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, producing our purpose. And you said something about general purpose and a specific purpose. I'm hearing that for the first time. I know everybody has a purpose. I never knew there was I know everybody's got specific purpose. I didn't know people have general purpose.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because if we really focus on our design and what we were designed for, a better way to explain this is if I go into a kitchen and the kitchen has an oven, it has a microwave, and it has a dishwasher. Well, I have a dishwasher in there and it's automatic. It's been built to wash dishes, but say I want to bake a ham. If I
Mm-hmm.
take and put the ham in the dishwasher,
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably not going to get what I want out of that
You're not
because the
gonna get.
dishwasher wasn't created or manufactured
Mhm.
to bake a ham.
Yeah.
Actually, the oven's better for that, right? And that is similar to how we are all created. We are all manufactured and built to do the thing that our designer, our creator has made us to do. And generally, we all have a basic purpose to, have relationships in this world, to, enjoy this life in a greater way. But then there are specific things that you do, even though we're all in the kitchen. You might be the oven, I might be the dishwasher. I have a specific purpose that I'm supposed to be able to do. And sometimes we find ourselves in misalignment,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not going to do very well if you are not doing the thing that you were created to do. And in the Bible, it says that we were uniquely and wonderfully made. Everyone has been uniquely and wonderfully made, and we need your gifting. We need you to share your specifics and what you're supposed to produce in this world. And when we do that on a consistent basis, you see a difference in how your life is and how your interactions and your relationships are, because then you are able to put up the right boundaries in your life, as
Mm-hmm.
well as you're able to impact those that are around you in such a greater way, because you're now producing based on what you were born to do, not what someone else has told you, not what someone has called maybe the unspoken rules or social norms that you may understand that you've been kind of working off of. Sometimes we're working off of social norms or patterns or things that we've picked up along the way that we are either unaware of or we are somewhat aware of, but we still kind of work in those. And it's better for us to start to go into what we were born to do, who we were kind of put out there to be. And when you're looking at your purpose, it's
Yeah.
important to really understand that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. For those that want to purchase your book or want to get it, how can they?
So in order to get the book, you go to my website, which is randyatkinsjr.com. At randyatkinsjr.com,
Mm-hmm.
there you will find Produce on Purpose Experience Life Being the Real You as an ebook, as well as paperback. It's also an Audible, so you can listen to it. And, sometimes I do that when I go to the gym. You can also come to get my podcast there. You can see sermons as well as videos and additional interviews like this on my website, randyatkinsjr.com. And for this group, if anyone who wants to get a signed copy, I will provide a 25% off coupon if they put in the coupon code INSPIRED.
Oh,
INSPIRED as the coupon code, 25% off a signed copy of the book to be mailed to you of Produce on Purpose. And it's been changing lives, changing others. I love feedback. So come to the website, give me feedback on it. And all of my social media is also there on my website as well. So you can connect with me there as well.
okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Can they actually buy it from Amazon?
You can also buy it from Amazon. Yeah, it's there on Amazon and has some great reviews as well. And I encourage you, if you buy, feel free to put up a review as well about the book.
About the book. Wow. Thank you for that. So let's talk about your personal story, your personal journey. So I know you said you're a preacher, yeah, in addition to
Yes.
an author, a speaker, a teacher, and all of that. Okay. So are you a pastor?
I've done assistant pastor for a while. I'm in a transition at this moment. I was up for a church and was ended up being one of two, and they picked the other person. So I'm now in a space that's a little different at this moment, but I have been assistant pastor for a while.
Wow. Okay, great. Wow. Okay, that's great to know.
Yeah,
That you're also a preacher. You must be a very busy man.
I just enjoy what I do. I really do. I love being able to share and being able to share based on foundational truths.
Mm,
Because if we can live by the truth does make us free.
it's true.
And so many people are looking for freedom,
Mm,
and one of the best ways to get to that freedom is to understand truth.
that's true. That's true. So your personal story, I mean your journey, I liked the importance of discovering and living your true purpose. Can you share a personal story from your own journey?
I love to share going back to probably when I was about 7 or 8. I had a very great friend. We would go in his backyard and I would say, hey, let's get some rope, let's get some duct tape, let's get some tarp. And we would go in his backyard and we would create these worlds in the back, whether it was Star Trek, Star Wars, we might have been pirates, whatever it was. We were playing and building and making those things. And sometimes I would be with him and we would come up with these ideas and we would build them out together. Sometimes he would come up with an idea, I would build it for him. Or I would come up with the idea and he would build it for me. And man, I kind of like that. I like coming up with the idea and seeing it built out. And it really sparked an interest in me of how in the world could something that is up here, which is just an idea, an imagination, end up becoming reality in this world. And so from that young age, as I went to school and everything else, I became very inquisitive about that and about life and what does that mean? And then additionally, as I learned more about my faith journey of how does that work out, I was about 11 when I accepted Christ in my life and had the hand of God I felt touch me and say, you are my child. And believing that, understanding what faith is and how does something that is sometimes in our imagination can become reality, and how does that work in life, and why is it that having a belief system and having faith and doing that throughout the journey allows for you to kind of grow. And I ended up in multiple leadership roles as I did my vocation. So whether it was working in a shoe store when I was in college, or moving forward into what I do today as a senior software consultant as a vocation, I learned throughout that process of how can you make something that is just in your imagination become a reality. And it's more than just taking and saying, I'm just going to go with whatever anyone says. No, it actually takes intent, takes practice, takes discipline. And so as that journey has gone on in my life, I've learned different capabilities, techniques, tools that have helped along that way. And that's why I put that into the book, Produce on Purpose, is that you can have these great ideas that become reality. When we look at a house,
Right.
how does the house become reality? It was somebody's idea, and then they wrote it down, and then others helped build that house. And it's the same thing with our lives. Is I've learned how to have an idea. How do you get people on board to help with that vision that you have, and also be guided in your purpose of making that vision be the most impactful to this world and sharing that along the way. So for me, a big part of the journey has been how do these ideas become reality, and how do I make sure that emotionally that I am strong and I continue to live in a way that is going to be impactful. So again, one part of the journey has also been learning that there are a lot of patterns. There are a lot of sometimes traumas that may have been picked up, whether when I was a child or along the way, that whether I needed a professional therapist or a pastor or friends that support, that don't judge
Yeah.
along the way to help grow and help become what you need to be so that you can have the greatest impact and see those imaginations and those ideas
Yeah,
show up in this world and become reality.
that's true.
Yeah.
It's so true. Having said that, there are some common obstacles that people face. So you faced some of those obstacles when you were growing. When trying to live authentically, how do you then overcome all these challenges? Because a lot of people, they come in contact with all these challenges, but then they let it consume them and they can't overcome. They live in that problem day in, day out, even though they don't show. And because of that, they can't live their purpose.
Yeah, my encouragement to everyone is to begin to look at and approach this world in a different way. I will share a personal story that I also share in the book. It's where I had difficulty when my 19-year-old brother was in a fatal car accident,
Mm,
and I had to try to come to grips with him no longer being here, watching him grow up as from a little baby all the way up, sometimes sleeping in my bed with me. We just had enjoyable times growing up. To is he going to walk through the door again? And the answer was no. And I was having a hard time with that, a hard time dealing with that. And sometimes we end up in those situations in our lives. I call those, sometimes it could be a midnight situation or a very dark situation in our lives. And the
yeah.
thing about midnight is sometimes between a time where it's really dark and a time where you may see a change or a transition in your life. And for me, the change didn't happen until 6 months later. My mom brought a letter that she had found on her computer that was written by my brother to a Christmas gathering that we were having. And she read that letter. I have that letter today because the letter was about me.
Oh,
And it was from my brother. And it was said what he admired about me, what he thought about me. And I had been talking to him for all of these years, and we'd been having conversations, but I didn't feel like I was making an impact. I didn't feel like I was making a difference. We would have conversations. I didn't think I was, making any inroads. But from
yeah.
that situation, and
Mm,
sometimes we can be in these situations that are challenging, and we can either be pulled away further from our Creator, our God, or
mm,
we can end up being pulled closer to God. And in that situation, for me, I ended up being drawn closer to God because I found out that any message that I have, anything that I'm sharing, could be impacting somebody. It could be changing their lives if
mm,
I would just share it. I may not see it with my eyes. I may not ever hear or about it. This is a letter that was provided to me after, my brother was no longer here, but it inspired me to say, regardless what I do, I'm going to make an effort to continue to share this message. What does that do for anyone else that's in a challenging time?
mm,
It says that we have the ability, if you know what your purpose is, you understand that you are here on a mission and on an assignment. That your assignment is that you find out what you're supposed to be doing, and that you do not allow anything else to stop you from doing that on a consistent basis. What are some things we can do? I'll give a few tools that I've provided, that I've done in my life, that's helped me. One of the things that has helped me along this journey is prayer. I pray and I meditate every single day. So prayer early in the morning, and I meditate is meaning that I listen to God. So prayer, you say your prayers and be authentic about what you're looking for, and then meditating to listen to God and listen to your creator. Say, hey, what are you here for? What should you do now?
mm,
Because those instructions can help tremendously versus just getting up and doing stuff every day on automatic. If we begin to understand that in a greater way, then the challenges of life become not as big sometimes as you believe them to be. And then additionally, I also encourage another thing is journaling. So I journal what I'm grateful for, also intention. So, what do you intend? What do you want out of life? What is it that you're supposed to be doing? And you should write those down. And what journaling does is it allows for you to be able to take a look back and to see the differences. Because sometimes there are changes happening in our lives and they're so subtle that we don't know or see them. But when you look back, you can see the changes that have happened and occurred that you're grateful for, that you have had intention about, and
mm,
that you have changed how you actually look and feel. One thing I've learned about all seasons and everything in our lives is that everything changes. If
yeah.
things didn't change, I would still have hair. If things didn't change, if things didn't change, I would have gray in my beard at this moment. We know
God, oh my goodness.
things change. So with change, that means whatever season you might be in, it might be a season where things aren't looking the best for you or you don't feel the best about it. It will change. And even if it's a great season, seasons do change. And so when we know that, then we have hope that we know that things can be in a space that will be helpful. And so hopefully that will provide some solace for people to understand that even in challenging times, you can have those differences become a part of your life and what you do.
Thank you. Let's talk about your podcasts, Produced on Purpose.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
So
About
in the
it.
podcast, I pretty much talk about some of the similar things about life and about how to create joy. We just go into more detail. I'm actually getting to a space in the podcast where I'll start bringing on guests. I haven't done that to date. I've primarily done solo podcasts, but it's all out there.
Mhm.
I believe it's about 20 something episodes out there now, and continue to share in more detail how can we live this life in a greater way, have greater joy, peace, and love.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That is so great. But how does it actually complement the themes and messages of your book?
Yes, it does. And in fact, the first season is primarily chapters that are part of the book. So if you are wanting to listen to some kind of additional insights that come from the book, it is definitely a great way to pair and read and say, oh, wait a minute, there's some additional stuff here that will help me along the way, and additional insight into kind of what are some things that we can do practically
Mm,
on a consistent basis to become better and to become stronger. And we talk about, life. What is it in life that and approaches to life in leadership and entrepreneurship, and how can I live this life in a greater way, and really express that in a way that is helpful to everyone that's around me and impacts this world in a greater way.
uh, okay. Thank you for that. What practical steps can our audience, people out there, take today to start aligning their lives with their true selves and purpose? What steps can they take?
One of the first steps I will encourage everyone to think about is many times we are carrying around patterns,
Mhm.
traumas,
Yeah.
areas of our lives that when you're carrying a lot of that stuff around, it's like carrying around a lot of garbage. And if I'm carrying a bunch of garbage around, whether it's in my head or I'm holding on to it, that at some point, if it's garbage, then it's going to come out and it's going to be stinky. We don't want stinky garbage, right? So one of the ways that you can begin to get rid of some of those patterns, those traumas, those things that we sometimes get comfortable in holding on to, is to let go of those things. So you identify, is this thing serving me or is it not serving me? Sometimes it's a relationship that's serving you or not serving you. Sometimes it's something that you're doing. Maybe it's work that you're doing, that is it serving you or not serving you? Or why are you doing these things? And when we begin to let go, or I will say also the other word is forgive. So you need to be able to forgive yourself and forgive others and forgive circumstances that have happened in your life. You
Yeah.
begin to become freer, because in order to get to intention, so everybody wants to get to intention to change their lives, and it's great to focus on intention. And when you start talking about intention, you start talking about how you can take and do affirmations, and you can begin to think of those things. But if you start with intention and you haven't cleaned up the stuff that's in you, the intention will only be temporary. It
Mm,
will only last for a small time. But if you want more permanent change,
mm,
instead of doing things from the outside in, you're going to start to work from the inside out. So the practical step number one is try to let go and get to a place of forgiveness. And this is where, you may need a professional therapist to talk to. You may need a pastor or friends that will not judge you, but will ask you clarifying questions of what you're doing. So, sometimes people, you're going to may be judging you, and then if they're judging you, it doesn't help for you to get through it. So you need to find a safe space to be able to get to that and let go. Once you're able to let go, then you can get into a place of what I call practices and disciplines. And that's where I talked about, prayer, meditation, journaling, gratitude, having that as a part of your life. And practically, you want to do that on a daily basis. You want to make sure that as a part of who you are and what you're about. And then lastly, I'm talking about intention. You need to have an intentional aim for your life. And this is where, if we go back to our purpose, we can intentionally aim at the things that make sense. Then you're able to really filter about out what things are serving you and what's not serving you, and be able to say, what are you supposed to be doing every day? And with intention, begin to see your life completely change. And you begin to produce those things that are beautiful in your life. You begin to produce the fruit of life, of love, of joy, of being able to have peace. Peace is one of the greatest things that we can all have. Is that in all situations, regardless of what's happening outside of me, my finances might not look the best. My body, and I may be hurting in my body. I may be having these things in this three-dimensional world that I'm relating to, may not be the happiest place. But if you add joy on the inside, if you understand why you're here, then that will begin to change those situations externally. And you'll be able to, instead of being focused on what the media is saying, what other people are talking about in your life, and allowing that to change you, you begin to change the situations in your life. And then when you show up, then you're the one that is the light in the darkness. You're the one that understands why you're here. You understand that you are impacting everyone that you meet. And every time you speak, every time you're in the presence and that someone sees you or they're around you, then they'll say something is different, because you're not being affected by the things that are outside of you, but you are now changing things from the inside out. And you are expressing what's inside of you every single day. And by doing that, that's practical steps that we can take to begin to produce on purpose, to begin to live a life that is greater, to be more fulfilled in our lives, to have greater joy, to really express that in everything that we do.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on our show today. We're really grateful. Yeah, I mean, with all the practical tips that you shared, I'm sure we will all align to knowing our purpose, sharing our purpose, Thank you so much. For people that might want to contact you, how can they?
Again, randyadkinsjr.com. Reach out to me there. Contact me, and I will be more than happy to communicate with you. Hear feedback from you. Anything that may be going on in your life, I would love to connect. I would love to connect. Connect to me on any of the socials. Typically on Facebook, Instagram, any of those that you want to connect with me.
Great. Thank
you so much for having me on.
Thank you. Before you go, one more question. This is so structured routine or spontaneous. Which one do you prefer?
I love both. Here's why. Here's how it works. The way that you do that on a daily basis. Specific things that I do, and I have every day that I'm going to wake up every day, and I'm going to have my prayer and my meditation time. So that's structured. I know that I'm going to do that. what I end up doing throughout the day could be spontaneous because I have open in my day. And so when you're able to combine those, I've learned to combine those because I do need specific times so that you have boundaries in your life that will help provide. I like to call them guardrails. And so that's my answer. That's my answer. To be able to provide. I love both.
So you combine.
Yeah, you gotta have some spontaneity in what you do. I believe in structure and discipline and practice that you practice. You can't be so rigid. You can't be so rigid that you don't want to be a part of your life. Be a part of your life.
In 1 minute, though, which do you prefer? Writing or speaking? Because I know you're a great speaker.
I love to speak. I really do love connecting. I love speaking. I love sharing. I love live audiences as well. It is something that is very cool to be able to get feedback when you are also sharing information and helping to change and transform. And of course, writing is just another means. It's more evergreen than some of the things that we've done. Podcasting now. Really cool because that's evergreen as well. I enjoy speaking though.
Thank you so much for today. And until next time, Shola on mission to inspire. Bye everyone. Subscribe if you haven't done so. Like, follow, comment. Until next time. Goodbye.